We turn now to number 2 in our series on God's love and justice. This one's entitled Covenantal Love. We don't use that term very often, covenantal, certainly not covenantal love. So what are we really talking about? Well, God made covenants with Old Testament figures. You remember Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and on the way through. And I suppose you can also say that Jesus made a covenant with us, particularly there at the Last Supper. But covenantal love, usually when we think of covenants in terms of legal material, legal aspects, we really are talking about some kind of contract. And that is usually in the form of, if you do this, then I'll do that. It's a reciprocal relationship that is conditional on each party fulfilling the requirements. Well, that's really not too much of what we're talking about here, because God promises to love us even when we want to go in the opposite direction. His love is not based on our response. Now, of course, he can't help us very much if we don't want to be with him, so that's certainly true, but his love is not conditional on our response. His is an unconditional love, and that is the basis for his covenant. There's a very good quote in the notes for this time from Henri Nouwen, and I think it's worth reading this out. When God makes a covenant with us, he says, "I will love you with an everlasting love. I will be faithful to you, even when you run away from me, reject me, or betray me." In our society, we don't speak much about covenants, we speak about contracts. When we make a contract with a person, we say, "I will fulfill my part as long as you fill yours. When you don't live up to your promises, I no longer have to live up to mine." Contracts are often broken because the partners are unwilling or unable to be faithful to their terms. But God didn't make a contract with us. God made a covenant with us, and God wants a relationship with one another to reflect that covenant. That's why marriage, friendship, life in community are all ways to give visibility to God's faithfulness in our lives together. And I think that's a really important summary of what we're talking about when we examine covenantal love. We're given material from 2 Peter, Deuteronomy 7, Romans 11, 1 John 4, John 15 and 1 John 13 and John 14:23. A mixed bag, as it were, of Bible texts. I think one of the most important ones I would like to highlight is 1 John 4:9. How was God's love shown to us? God sent his one and only Son into the world so that we could live through him. And of course, John is thinking of that statement, "For God so loved the world," and that's the demonstration of it. "Those who love me will do as I say. My Father will love them, and we will come and make our home with them." John 14:23. That's again not saying it's conditional. It's simply, if we really do love God, we will follow his ways. We will agree with him about right and wrong and so on, so that he can come and help us, because he wants us to fulfill that aspect of the covenant. It's not, as we said, in Latin, a quid pro quo. You give me this and I give you that. No, it's God saying, "I want to bless you. Please let me." And that is really what the covenantal love is all about. In biblical terms, as I say in the notes, covenant is equivalent to a guaranteed promise. That is the promise that God makes. He made that promise to Abraham. He made it to Isaac. He made it to Jacob, and all the way on through. And he makes that promise to us. He will love us with an unconditional love. He will be faithful to us. He won't let us down. This is the kind of love that surpasses all human love. And in Hosea 11, you hear the tortured cry of God dealing with people who want to walk away from him and his love. He says, "How can I give you up? How can I let you go?" He simply can't do it because he is love. But the highest element of love, if I could call it that, is that it allows for rejection. God does not compel love. He doesn't force his love upon us. He allows us to accept or reject and to return love to him if that's what we really want. He doesn't want any kind of love that is forced or coerced or mandated in any way. So let's think about that as we study covenantal love this week.